Aerosmith returned with a new EP with Yungblud. Matt Cameron speaks out about leaving Pearl Jam and what's next for Soundgarden. And Foo Fighters return to the live stage with a new drummer, and they also take a knock at artificial intelligence. I'm going to break it all down on this edition of the Rock News Roundup Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Rock News Roundup Podcast, your destination for the latest in rock music news, reviews, and discussion right here on the Nick Chino Music YouTube channel. I'm your host, Nick Chino. We got the mics on, we got the devil horns up, and we're here to talk about the latest and greatest in rock music news. If you're watching this video on YouTube, I'd very much appreciate if you gave this video a thumbs up and a like. I'd very much appreciate it if you shared it with your fellow friends and your fellow rock fans, and make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future videos. And this podcast is also available as an audio-only edition on your favorite podcasting app of choice, whether that be Spotify or Apple Music. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can listen to this podcast, and I'd very much appreciate it if you gave it a rating and review on those platforms. Also, make sure to follow me on social media across platforms, wherever you're on social, at Nick Chino Music. And if you are watching this video on YouTube, I have a couple of new videos that I posted there on the channel if you want to check them out. The first being a couple of rock album reviews for some big albums that came out this past weekend. The new album from Biffy Clyro called Futique. I love Biffy Clyro, one of my favorite bands of all time, so I reviewed their new album Futique, as well as the new soundtrack from Nine Inch Nails, the Tron Ares soundtrack, came out this weekend, a few weeks ahead of the new movie's release in theaters. So I reviewed the new album from Nine Inch Nails, Tron Ares, and then also you can check out my Morning Glory, Oasis Morning Glory reimagined video. We are coming up on the 30th anniversary of the classic Oasis sophomore album, What's the Story, Morning Glory. So we have the 30th anniversary deluxe edition coming out very soon, and I thought it'd be fun to come on the channel and do a little multiverse, like alternate versions of Morning Glory, including a couple of different versions of the track list. And so if you're interested in checking out some alternate multiverse versions of Oasis Morning Glory, you can check that out right now on the channel. But let's get to our headliner topics on this edition of the Rock News Roundup Podcast. We're going to talk about Aerosmith returning with a brand new 5-song EP, a collaboration with Yungblud. They've released a new song that is pretty cool. We're going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes. Matt Cameron, the drummer for Pearl Jam, or I guess the former drummer for Pearl Jam now, is speaking out about why he left the band after 27 years, and also talks about the new music that Soundgarden is making using tracks from the late, great Chris Cornell. But we're going to kick off this edition of the Rock News Roundup Podcast with Foo Fighters returning to the live stage with their new drummer, Ilan Rubin, and also making a hilarious artificial intelligence video that's pretty much just pokes fun at artificial intelligence. So let's break this all down for you. The Foo Fighters have returned to the live stage with their new drummer, Ilan Rubin. He was announced as a replacement for Josh Freese just a couple of weeks ago, and they performed 2 surprise warm-up shows in Southern California before they head off to Asia to do a couple of big festivals. So this was a way for them to break in the new drummer, get back on the live stage, maybe try to forget some of the controversy that Dave Grohl has been involved in over the last little while. And they played some really cool warm-up shows. So the fans, they didn't really know about this in advance. So Foo Fighters announced it very, very quickly on social media for fans actually to line up. They had to line up in person, not even online. Old school. They had to line up in person to get tickets to their shows at the Fremont Theater and the Observatory, which sold out almost immediately. Both of these shows happening in Southern California. And I just wanted to pop up the set lists for these Foo Fighters shows. So they didn't play anything new, but if you're a Foo Fighters fan and you showed up and you waited in line to get tickets for these shows, I think you'd be pretty happy with these set lists when they did the first show at the Fremont Theater. And, forgive me if I don't pronounce this completely correctly, San Luis Obispo, California, United States. They opened up with All My Life. They played Rope. They played Have It All from One by One as the third song. They haven't played that live in a very, very long time. And then another great set list. Times Like These, Watershed, Stacked Actors, La Di Da from Concrete and Gold, These Days, The Pretender, My Hero, Learn to Fly, Rescued, Aurora, This Is the Call. I'm just running through this whole thing, but they played some, playing Watershed was cool. Winnebago, that's not one that they play all the time. These are from their first record. Alone in Easy Target, Low, Monkey Wrench, Exhausted, another great one from the first record, and Everlong. And then they switched things up a little bit for the show on the second night at the Observatory in Santa Ana, California. This is, again, another great set list where they found like a really perfect balance between, you know, their big hits, and then there are also some album tracks and fan favorites. They opened up this one with enough space from Color in the Shape. That is a great opener with that awesome bass line from Nate Mendel into All My Life. And some of the same songs that they played Under You from the most recent record, But Here We Are. And then they also played Big Me. They played This Is a Call, No Son of Mine, Weenie Beanie, another great song from the first record, Monkey Wrench, Exhausted. They played some really killer set lists. So even though we didn't get anything new really from the Foo Fighters, they didn't even play their most recent single, Today's Song. It looks like it was an awesome set list for these warm-up shows in Southern California with their new drummer, Ilan Rubin, and he sounds pretty good going into this show. I only saw some snippets on social media, on YouTube, so really hard to see unless you were in the room, but he sounded pretty good. Now, it's the Foo Fighters drumming position is always going to be a hard position to fill because you have one of the world's best drummers on lead vocals and guitar in your band, as a you know, you got Dave Grohl up there doing his thing, and then this is a band where the legacy looms large on the drummer, right? Taylor Hawkins was the Foo Fighters drummer. He was a huge personality within the band. He's practically irreplaceable, but of course the band has to keep going, and I don't think anybody faults them for keeping going and still doing the Foo Fighters thing. But any Foo Fighters drummer needs to have an incredible amount of energy and stamina. I don't care what anybody says. From what I've seen, you know, I'm not a drummer. I'm a singer and a guitar player. I don't know as much about drums. And well, I've played in bands for 25 years. I've played with lots of drummers over the years, so I know what a good drummer is, and I know for a fact that in the Foo Fighters, any drummer that takes that spot has to be amazing. Has to have the stamina and the energy, something that Taylor Hawkins had in spades, and of course, there's been more controversy on the drummer side of Foo Fighters things because Josh Freese was the initial replacement for Taylor Hawkins, and now they replaced Josh Freese with Ilan Rubin. The funny thing is that Ilan Rubin was the drummer for Nine Inch Nails. Josh Freese used to play with Nine Inch Nails, was playing with the Foo Fighters, and then they swapped. Josh Freese went back to Nine Inch Nails. Ilan Rubin went back went to the Foo Fighters. And so I don't really know what happened there, why the band let Josh Freese go. It's still kind of a mystery. It sounds like it was a mystery to him as well. It's not something that he really expected. But from what I can see in this footage, Ilan Rubin is playing a lot of the songs really well. And again, not easy songs to play. I challenge most drummers to try to play Everlong all the way through without getting tired, or playing All My Life, or some of these other big Foo Fighters songs. They require a tremendous amount of stamina and energy. Again, I'm a lead singer and guitar player, but I played with drummers for a very long time, so I know the fact that these things are not as easy as they look. I've seen some people knock online, well, it's the Foo Fighters. Like, how hard can the drumming be, and why do they keep working through so many drummers? And the honest truth is that being a drummer for the Foo Fighters isn't as easy as it looks. And so it looks like Ilan Rubin has been able to kind of fit the role so far, which is not an easy role to fill. But on top of these two shows that they did in California to warm up for their Asian tour dates, the Foo Fighters also released a hilarious video online that was hilarious to me, but disturbing in the reaction that it got from fans online. So you can go check it out on the Foo Fighters official YouTube channel. They released an AI video making fun of artificial intelligence and all the generative AI that we've seen, and how it ends up leading to all sorts of horrible images that we can't even fathom. People with all sorts of things that they shouldn't have. In this video, Dave Grohl has 6 fingers when he's talking about the set list, which is like illegible. You can't even read it. Pat Smear has 3 legs in one of the shots. They all have odd voices. They all look a little bit weird. The uncanny valley is totally in full effect with this video. And it's supposed to be tongue-in-cheek. This is the Foo Fighters we're talking about. They've always done things that are tongue-in-cheek. They've always done comedic things, whether it be, trolling the Westboro Baptist Church, or releasing various videos over the years where they dress up, whether it be Everlong or Learn to Fly. We know the Foo Fighters are known to do things that are tongue-in-cheek, and this video was absolutely hilarious. I'm talking about making a human connection with their fans and making music while they have all sorts of funny AI images. But the thing that really disturbed me about this entire video was how many fans on the Foo Fighters social media accounts that didn't realize this was artificial intelligence. That is the thing that scared me the most, because the Foo Fighters, like right from the get-go, when I put on the video, I got it in an email, one of their email newsletters. Right from the get-go, when I opened up the email and watched the video, I knew that it was artificial intelligence, because Dave Grohl's mouth looked all funky, and you could tell that it wasn't really his voice. It was a generated voice. You could tell it was fake right from the get-go. And I immediately started laughing and saying, this is hilarious. This is so typical of the Foo Fighters to do a funny video like this and poke fun at AI when we're in the age of artificial intelligence and generative AI, videos, graphics, everything. It's a wild west out there when it comes to AI. And then when you went into the comments, there were fans, of course, who were able to call it out like I did when I first watched it, but some other ones literally didn't say a thing about it being artificial intelligence. They were just agreeing with whatever was being said in the video. They were just going along with it. And it didn't seem like they were able to discern that the Foo Fighters were taking the piss out of artificial intelligence in the video. They didn't notice that Dave Grohl had like 6 or 7 fingers. They didn't know that everybody looked really, really weird and that their voices were really strange and it was really off. And that's the part that disturbs me, because Foo Fighters were being quite obvious in this video that they were making fun of artificial intelligence, using artificial intelligence. And the fact that a lot of fans in the comments of their social media accounts, at least from what I could tell, did not realize that off the top. And to me, folks, I'm not going to get into a big long rant about artificial intelligence and the arts and music and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get into that. But the fact that a lot of fans weren't able to track that this was a purposely made like comedic video about artificial intelligence, I find that to be really disturbing. And that is the dystopia that we live in 2025. But either way, it was a hilarious video. It's great to have the Foo Fighters back. They've been saying that there is more to come. So we can only assume, or hopefully we can assume, that it's going to be new music, a new album, maybe some tour dates outside of Asia. That's kind of where they're kicking things off, in like Indonesia and that kind of thing. So we'll see. Hopefully this all leads to some new music from Foo Fighters, them getting back on the road. They didn't come to Toronto or this part of Canada on their last tour for But Here We Are. So I'm hoping that they make their way here, release some more new music. Today's song, the one that came out a little while ago, it's okay, but they actually released a snippet on one of their teaser posts for the warm-up shows in Southern California. It had a cool riff on it. That sounds cooler than today's song. But anyways, the Foo Fighters are back with their new drummer. It looks like he's fitting the bill really well. Hopefully he can stay with the band and keep rocking with them. So that's going to be really cool. They did those warm-up shows in Southern California. They're heading over to Asia to do a bunch of shows there as well. And then they released this hilarious AI video on their website as well. Some fans did not clock that this was AI, and that part is really disturbing. But anyways, hop into the comments below. Let me know what you think of the new drummer, based on, people who were in the room, or based on if you saw footage online. Let me know in the comments, and let me know what you thought of this Foo Fighters AI video. I found it to be hilarious, but was also very disturbed that a lot of fans did not manage to track that themselves. So it's just very funny, but also very disturbing. So let me know what you think of all this Foo Fighters news and content in the comments below. Now let's get to the next headliner topic on this edition of the Rock News Roundup Podcast, and that is Matt Cameron, the drummer for Pearl Jam, the former drummer and drummer for Soundgarden, is speaking out in a new interview that he did with Billboard. I found this information on loudwire.com. So Matt Cameron is talking about everything that has been going on in the last little while, including his departure from Pearl Jam, as well as talking about new Soundgarden music. They've been trying to work on new Soundgarden music using unused tracks from the late, great Chris Cornell for quite a while, but there was a lot going on in terms of the legal battles. Anyways, let's get into this. So Pearl Jam, Matt Cameron left the band after 27 years, and in this new interview, he talks a little bit more about what happened and what led him to that decision. And he said he gave the remaining members of Pearl Jam a lot of notice that he was going to be leaving the band. And he said that basically the reason he left the band is that he was having problems with the touring and the length of the shows that Pearl Jam have been performing. Pearl Jam are one of those legendary live bands. They're known for doing 3-hour plus concerts. They're at total Springsteen level in terms of doing really, really long concerts. They're known to change up the set list a lot more than most bands do when they go out and play a tour. So Pearl Jam are a living, breathing live musical entity. But Matt Cameron said that he was having trouble with that in terms of the constant touring with Pearl Jam, the 3-hour plus sets that they were playing every night. And that's to be expected. In the last segment, I was talking about the Foo Fighters and talking about the energy and the stamina needed for a drummer to be able to keep up with them musically. And that goes the same for Pearl Jam. You got to remember, you know what, I'm going to say this, maybe my bandmates and people that I've played with over the years might disagree with me, but I think the hardest positions, the hardest parts to play in the band are the drummer and the singer. I'm a singer and a guitar player. So as a singer, I'm putting out so much energy on stage to sing the songs, to sing them correctly, to be able to sing all night without losing my voice. You have to take an incredible amount of care to take care of your voice. And then when you get on stage, you're putting out so much energy. And not to say that the other people in the band aren't putting out a lot of energy, but as a singer, you're putting out a lot of energy. And I would say that even more so than the singer, the other person in the band who's putting out the most energy is the drummer, right? It takes so much to be able to play drums for a full set. Obviously, there's so many professional drummers. It's stamina, it's energy, it's being able to be the backbone of the band, because really any good band is dependent on their drummer. And so Matt Cameron, who, even though he's an industry veteran, he's been playing with the band for 27 years with Pearl Jam, he was having a hard time with doing 3-hour sets every night, constant touring. Pearl Jam were always on the road. And he was saying that instead of going on stage and playing for 3 hours plus to the audience, he would rather go on stage and play a 70-minute set that's going to melt people's faces and really blow them away and leaving them wanting more. And I have to say I agree with him, because I feel like there's a little bit of a happy medium in there. I don't, 70 minutes, if you're going to see Pearl Jam and they only play for 70 minutes, that's a little bit disappointing, because they're a band with this crazy catalog with so many hits. Concert tickets and prices are so crazy these days. We've had this conversation on the channel before, where the price of things is so expensive that you really want to get your money's worth, but then you don't want to go overboard. When I saw Oasis play last month, I got my shirt on. When I saw Oasis play last month, they played 23 songs. They played for like 2 hours. And to me, that was perfect. And I even though I would probably watch Oasis play all night long, I'd watch them play forever if I could. Concerts have a certain shelf life to them, and I feel like Pearl Jam, when they're doing 3 hours there, might be a little bit too much. And it sounds like it was getting to be a little bit too much for Matt Cameron. He put his time in with Pearl Jam. He put 27 years in with that band, and it's to be expected that it might be a little bit too much after a while. But on the plus side, him leaving Pearl Jam has given him the time and the space to go back and work with Soundgarden, because Soundgarden, he was talking about in this interview, the band had been working on the final songs that they have with the late great Chris Cornell, and this is coming after a really prolonged, long lawsuit battle with Chris Cornell's widow, Vicky Cornell. It was pretty messy there for a while, but from what I understand, all those legal things have been worked out, and Soundgarden are back in the studio working on these new Soundgarden songs that were left over from before Chris Cornell passed away. He says in this interview with Billboard that he wants the entire album to be complete before releasing any singles, and some people have been asking, like, why haven't you put out one-off singles? He's saying he wants everything to be done before the band embarks on any sort of promotional campaign or release campaign for this new music. He says there's 8 songs total from this new session for Soundgarden, and he says the band is halfway done, so they're working on it right now. Kim's working on the guitar parts for the record, and then Matt Cameron was also talking about the emotional aspect of it, right? Because it's not just about going into the studio and completing these songs. He says that he was in the studio working on these songs, and to hear Chris Cornell's voice rocking out, even doing the tender moments on these unreleased songs, has been a really emotional thing for the band. And I'm saying a quote from him. He's saying it was empowering, but also gut wrenching. And I can totally understand how that there would be those two sides to the coin in this particular session. But I'm really happy that Soundgarden have finally worked out all these issues with Vicky Cornell. They're back in the studio working on these final 8 songs, because I feel like we need that epilogue. We need that final piece of work from Soundgarden. I really feel like their work was unfinished, unfortunately, by the death of Chris Cornell, which was so tragic. One of the biggest losses in the world of rock music, one of the greatest voices in all of the world of rock. That is still such a huge loss. And as a Soundgarden fan, fan. I loved King Animal, which was their last studio record that came out in 2012. That was their reunion after being away for almost 20 years. So when they released King Animal in 2012, I was blown away by that record. I think that's one of the best Soundgarden records. For them to come back after such a long time away and be able to release such a great record, that cannot be understated. And there's so many great songs on that record. Been Away Too Long, Non-State Actor, By Crooked Steps, 1,000 Days Before. I think it's called 1,000 Days Before, or 1,000 Miles Before. Anyways, so many great songs on that record. Rowing is another great one. Black Saturday or Black Friday. So many great songs. Black Saturday, I think. So many great songs on that King Animal record. And I was so excited at the time. We got Soundgarden back. They were better than ever. The songs are great. They were getting played on the radio all the time. And I was really looking forward to seeing what else would come of that reunion from Soundgarden, which was unfortunately cut short with the tragic death of Chris Cornell. So I was really wondering what's going to happen. So the fact that they have these Soundgarden songs that are going to be recorded, they have unused vocals from Chris Cornell. There's going to be 8 songs total. I think that's going to be amazing when they come out. I think they're going to blow our minds. No really word yet on when they're going to come out, but I think they're absolutely going to blow our minds with their new material. But then on top of this, all this stuff that's going on, Soundgarden are going to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year. So this is going to be a huge thing for Soundgarden. Pearl Jam's already in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Matt Cameron was saying in this interview with Billboard that he said that this induction with Soundgarden is a little bit more special than the induction that he had with Pearl Jam, because when it comes to Soundgarden, he was there from day one. He helped build Soundgarden from the ground up with those guys, and then with Pearl Jam it was a little bit of a different situation because he came in much later. He came in, I think it was on Jack Iron still played on Yield. So Binaural in 2000 was the first record to feature Matt Cameron, even though I think he played with him live previously before that. But he joined that late. There had already been a bunch of different drummers. Pearl Jam was on album number 5, album number 6 when he joined the band. And so the fact that he was one of the key elements of building Soundgarden from the ground up is one of the reasons why he considers the Soundgarden induction to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to be much more important. So I think that is really cool, really awesome that Soundgarden's being inducted, 100% deserved. So the induction ceremony for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for Soundgarden with Matt Cameron, as well as a bunch of other different members, ex-members of the band, is going to be happening November 8th in Los Angeles, and that's going to be streaming on Disney+. So, you know what? This was really cool, actually, for Matt Cameron to do this interview, because sometimes when people leave bands and members leave bands, we don't always get the full story of what happened, or we might speculate on all sorts of different reasons why it might happen outside of just the musical reasons for those things to happen. And he gave us some clarity on that, right? He's saying, Matt Cameron's saying, I left Pearl Jam because it's not to say he couldn't handle it anymore, because he's one of the greatest drummers out there. I'm sure he could more than handle playing those shows, but from a creative perspective, from a musical perspective, he was getting tired of playing those really long shows and going and doing all that touring. And really, he's earned a right to be able to do what he wants to creatively. I'm sure he's fine financially. So it's awesome that he's able to just say, you know what, I want to do something different. I want to go back to making this music from Soundgarden. He wants to work with Well Water Conspiracy or whatever other project that he's working with. It's just good to see that he's doing something creative and that he's following his musical muse in a way. So yeah, it's kind of sucks that he left Pearl Jam. We still don't know who's going to replace the drummer in Pearl Jam, but we'll see. And then it's awesome that Soundgarden are working on these final 8 songs to feature the late great Chris Cornell. So I'm very excited for the induction to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Very excited for new music from Soundgarden whenever that comes out, because I think that's going to blow our minds. But you know what? You guys, it's your turn. Hop into the comments below. Let me know what you thought about these comments from Matt Cameron about his reasons for leaving Pearl Jam. Are you excited for these new unreleased songs from Soundgarden? Are you excited for them to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Hop into the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Let's get to the final headliner topic on this edition of the Rock News Roundup podcast, and that is Aerosmith are back. One of my favorite bands of all time. You know, even before I was a huge Oasis fan, I was a huge Aerosmith fan, and they're back. They're teaming up with the singer Yungblud for a new EP called One More Time. It's going to come out on November the 21st on all the usual formats, and it's going to feature 5 new tracks featuring Yungblud and Aerosmith together, including this new song they just released called My Only Angel. And this is going to be their first new music since their album in 2011, I believe that came out, Music from Another Dimension, an album that I really enjoyed. I thought that was a great last album from Aerosmith. And the big surprising thing about this is because Steven Tyler, as we know, has been going through some major vocal issues with his voice, you know, causing Aerosmith to quit touring. They announced that a couple of years ago that they were quitting touring, which I thought was such a shame because Aerosmith is a musical force when they're on stage. But then Steven Tyler made an appearance at the Ozzy Osbourne Black Sabbath Back to the Beginning final shows in Birmingham, England. And he was there jamming with Joe Perry. He was jamming with a bunch of different people, and he sounded incredible when he went on and played those songs. If you saw anything about that online, Steven Tyler sounded great. So obviously he's had some issues with his voice, and he's been able to rest, and he's been able to do his own thing, that he can get some of that vocal strength back. No word that they're going to be going back on the road right now, but to me, that is not the biggest consideration. To me, the fact that Steven Tyler is still doing his thing and still able to sing is really the biggest takeaway from me on this one. So glad to see he's at least back in studio form. He sounded great live as well, and he's one of the best vocalists of all time. Like, very few vocalists can do what Steven Tyler has been able to do in the vocal booth and live. So it's really great to have him back. So what they've done is they've released this new song called My Only Angel along with Yungblud. It opens with a big Aerosmith vocal before going into a big Joe Perry riff. It definitely sounds like Aerosmith, and the song it's kind of soft. It's maybe not as heavy. It's got a good riff in there and a good solo in there, but it might not be as heavy as other big Aerosmith tracks. And I'm not a huge Yungblud fan. I've listened to a bunch of his music. Not a huge fan of him, but he's another great singer. He's got a great voice, no doubt about that. But he's another singer. When you see him and Steven Tyler together in the video for My Only Angel, they literally both have huge mouths. You know, as singers, they both have very toothy, huge mouths, which is to be expected because they have huge vocals. The bigger the mouth, the bigger the vocal. I totally get that. And it's cool just to see them playing together and singing together. Again, I'm not a huge fan of Yungblud. I have to listen to more of his stuff, maybe give him more of a chance. But I'm really, really, really excited that he teamed up with Aerosmith. You know, he was he played at the Ozzy Black Sabbath final shows as well. So he's playing with Aerosmith, and really, Yungblud going toe-to-toe with Steven Tyler is no small feat because, like I said, Steven Tyler is one of the best vocalists of all time, one of the best vocalists in rock, and the fact that Yungblud can get in a studio in front of a microphone and Steven Tyler and hold his own, that's pretty fucking cool. Not every singer can do that. I know I couldn't. You put me in a booth with Steven Tyler, I don't think I'd be coming out of there looking very good because he's such a good singer. Yungblud has a great voice as well. And this new song, My Only Angel, is pretty cool. Maybe not as heavy as other Aerosmith tracks, but it definitely has that Aerosmith feel to it along with Yungblud. And I'm very excited for this new EP. I'll definitely review it here on the channel. It's called One More Time. It comes out on November the 21st. So I'm excited to have new music from Aerosmith. I'm glad to see Steven Tyler is out there singing after going through all the issues that he has had with his voice over the last couple of years. So very, very cool to see him back. So let me know what you think of this. Are you excited for this new EP from Aerosmith and Yungblud called One More Time? Are you excited that hopefully maybe Aerosmith will go back out on the road eventually? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But before we wrap up this edition of the Rock News Roundup Podcast, I want to get to my tracks of the week, a couple of rock tracks that I've really enjoyed that I now want to recommend and pass on to you. So the first track of the week comes courtesy of Tame Impala. The song is called Loser. Kevin Parker is back with the 5th studio album from Tame Impala. It's called Deadbeat. It's coming out on October the 17th. He already released a song from the record a little bit earlier on in the summer called End of Summer, which is a song I didn't really love, but this new single called Deadbeat is really, really cool. There's a video online featuring Joe Keery from Stranger Things in that one, so that was really cool as well. And it's a little bit of a different feel, you know, it doesn't feel like this new stuff, Deadbeat and End of Summer, had the same vintage 80s synthy electronic sound that Currents did, neo soul sound that Currents did, or the Slow Rush did. It sounds very much like a mix of that kind of sound, Currents and Slow Rush, but then mixed with Inner Speaker. So it sounds like a perfect mix of early Tame Impala with more modern Tame Impala, and it sounds like he's found a little bit of a tighter sound. I was reading an interview with him where he said he didn't really go as lush with the production on this new record, Deadbeat, as he did on past Tame Impala records, and it kind of sounds like that. Deadbeat definitely sounds like a little bit of a tighter thing going on. So I really enjoyed that. The new song from Tame Impala called Loser. Also, my track of the week comes courtesy of Deftones and Ecdysis from the new album Private Music. Deftones, man. Deftones. Private Music is one of the best records of the year for sure. 2025, I'm going to put it out there. It's been an awesome year for new rock music, including this new album from Deftones, Private Music. I did a rock album review here on the channel. I'm a huge Deftones fan. My partner Danielle is a huge Deftones fan as well. And this is one of the best songs from the record, along with Infinite Source and Cut Hands and pretty much the whole thing. My Mind is a Mountain. It's a solid Deftones record, but I've been blasting this one in the car a lot lately. Chino's vocals on this are insane. It's a great record. Private Music is definitely going to be ending up near the top out of a lot of big album lists, rock album lists towards the end of 2025. So Ecdysis from Deftones, from Private Music. And then my final track of the week comes courtesy of one of my favorite New Zealand dream pop bands. Definitely not something that I usually cover here on the channel, but I'm a huge fan of all sorts of different types of music in addition to rock. And this new album from Yumi Zuma also has a little bit more of a rock edge to it than we've seen for albums from them in the past. So this song is called Blister. It's been out for a little while, but it's definitely my favorite of the more recent tracks released by Yumi Zuma. They're a band out of New Zealand, and they have a new record coming out on January the 30th. So quite a ways away, 2026. The album's called No Love Lost to Kindness, and I think this is my favorite out of the 4 tracks that they've released so far. Blister, it's got a little bit more of a rock edge than what we've seen from Yumi Zuma before in the past. They've always had more of a pop, sleepy, dream pop, chill pop kind of edge to them. This one's a little bit more rocky, and again, my favorite out of the 4 tracks they've released so far. Funnily enough, Yumi Zuma, funny connection to Oasis, which is my favorite band of all time. Obviously, I talk about them all the time here on the channel. Yumi Zuma did a full album cover a few years back of What's the Story, Morning Glory, the entire record, every track on the album. They did a cover album of it, and it's actually really, really cool. They made the album sound very different, because they have really nothing in common with Oasis sonically or musically, but they put their own spin on it, and I thought that was really cool. So you can try to find that on the internet. I don't think it's on Spotify or on streaming. Maybe try SoundCloud. Yumi Zuma doing their album cover, like of the entire album of What's the Story, Morning Glory. But if you want to discover some more original music from Yumi Zuma, Blister is one of their new songs, and the new album No Love Lost to Kindness comes out on January the 30th. But that is it, guys. That is it for this edition of the Rock News Roundup Podcast. Thank you very much for watching or listening. Make sure to hop in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on the headliner topics from this edition of the show. Make sure to like this video if you're watching on YouTube. I'd very much appreciate that. And make sure to smash the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos here on the channel. But I'll see you guys again for another episode of the Rock News Roundup Podcast. Until then, rock on, everybody.